Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Jessica, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to pass your CCRN. If it's your first time watching me, I did make a video before. My first video was called How to Get into CRNA School. I'll leave the link in one of these corners or in the description below. And in that video, I explained a few steps of what you should be doing prior to CRNA school in order to get in. And one of those steps was pass your CCRN. So I'm going to go into more depth today on how I passed my CCRN and what tools I used. When I first started looking into taking my CCRN, I was kind of overwhelmed, like what books do I use? What videos do I watch? All of this stuff. So the first book I decided to buy was the Barron's CCRN book. This is what it looks like, and this is how thick it is. It's a very good starter book. It's not the only book you should use, but it lays down the foundation. So the book is written in like a note-taking format, not necessarily like a textbook where there's like paragraphs and paragraphs of information. There's a lot of pictures, a lot of graphs. For example, this goes over a pneumothorax and the signs and symptoms of what a tension pneumo would be and what a spontaneous pneumo would be. Like pictures here and the graph. So it really is user-friendly, I guess. And like if you're the type of person that needs to like see charts and see things like a visual learner, that this book is for you, really. So what I did is I went through the whole book. At the end of each chapter, there's practice questions, and at the end of the book, there's like 3 exams you can take. So I did everything in this book. I highlighted everything. I took notes everywhere. And once I finished it, I moved on to a complex textbook. So the next book that I used was called Pass CCRN. So now this is like a Bible, like very, very thick, and it's not written in any way that's like pleasing to the eye. Like everything is just pages and pages of notes. So my best advice to you is to use this to brush up on topics that you're really having trouble with, because this goes into like extreme depth. You'll almost even more than you actually need to know. But if you're struggling in a topic, that this is good because you'll know it inside and out. You won't have any more issues with it. Another thing about this book is that it comes with a online code. So you scratch the code off and you have access to like over 1,000 or 1,000 questions. Yeah. 1,000 additional review questions with answers and rationales. So this is what I use mainly. I use this book mainly for the questions, and then I went over topics that really were troubling me. So questions are amazing because the rationales are amazing. The rationales explain the concepts in them. So if you're taking a lot of questions, you can start realizing which ones you're getting wrong and then go into the textbook and study a little bit more. You can also take questions based on chapter, system, or just all random. So I always did all random just to feel more like I was taking the exam, and it definitely helped me. And then along the way, say if you're taking a bunch of practice questions and you don't want to really stop and open the textbook just yet, what I did was I took a little notebook and I labeled each section a different part of the body system. So say an issue with GI. I went into the GI section and wrote, search more or find out more about this specific ailment or disease or the treatments of it. Look into the drugs that treat this disease or illness, or like what happens to the body with this drug, stuff like that. And then I went back to it and then I would write, because writing definitely helps. You have to find out the type of person that you are when you study, if you're more just reading and then you know it, or you need to write it as well. I did all forms. So I read, I took notes, and then I took questions, and then I went back and I wrote down the concepts and things that I didn't know so that it would stick in my head more. So, for example, when a patient has status asthmaticus as opposed to COPD or ARDS, the vent settings are all going to be different. So I wrote down like the main points of each ventilator setting for each disease and ailment, and that's how I remembered. And I always was like, okay, COPD this, status asthmaticus is this. You want this tidal volume versus this respiratory rate, etc. Using the Barron's book and the Pass CCRN was definitely a great amount of questions. You don't have to get this book. It's definitely optional. I got this book along with the Pass CCRN just because I had this fear of like not reading say I went to the test and I didn't read that. Oh, I didn't see that. But now that I took the test, I know that this is definitely not necessary, but I'm just still going to suggest it because this is what I used. This is Certification in Core Review for High Acuity Progressive and Critical Care Nursing by Lisa M. Stone. I'll leave all the links to these books in the description. This book is just strictly questions. So it has basically 3 exams in it and rationales with it. And I noticed like some of the questions that they would ask were totally like left field, not really related to the CCRN, but then some of them are also useful as well. So that's why I don't fully recommend this book, but if you really want to copy exactly what I did, then go ahead and buy it. This also has an online component, but it doesn't have 1,000 questions. If you scratch the code off, it's exactly the same online, plus an additional 100 questions. So you don't get as many questions. Not all of the questions are really applicable. So this I'm leaving up to you guys. So now with those 3 books, you should be more than ready to take your CCRN. What I started doing is last year I started reading the Barron's book in March, and that's going to take the most time because you're reading and trying to understand concepts and really dive into that material. That took me. I wasn't studying every day because reading each chapter it's a good amount of work. So from March to June, I read that book. Did the questions in that book, and then I scheduled my CCRN for August. So from June, July, and August, I really buckled down, and all of July and August I was doing questions about every day. Maybe one day I would just give myself a break. Towards the end of July, I was doing about 200 questions a day. By the time you're doing 200 questions a day and you're kind of like, oh, I know this, you're able to explain the concepts and why the answer is correct without looking at the rationale, then you know that you're ready to take your exam. A good thing about the past CCRN as well, it gives you like a grade and a percentile if you take a bulk of questions. Since the CCRN is a 150 question test and you need to get at least a 75% to pass, what I would do was I'd take 150 questions and see what percentile I'd get. And when you start getting like high 80s, 90 percentile on 150 or more questions, you know that you're ready. One thing people complained about was that the questions become repetitive and you start memorizing the answer. Like I said before, if you can explain why the answer is the answer, then you know the concept and have that knowledge to apply to any other question related to that concept. So you should be fine. All right, so that wraps this video up, guys. I didn't do anything else to study or watched any videos. I know a lot of people watch the Laura Gasparis videos, but I didn't do that. So you don't necessarily have to do certain things to pass. I think it's all about putting the time and the work in, really. If you have any more questions about how to pass your CCRN and anything about other books that you've used, feel free to leave me a comment below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe, and feel free to leave a comment about what you'd like to see. I also want to just give a little shout out to NBC News because I was recently involved in a comic strip in regards to COVID, and it basically explains my thoughts, feelings, and experiences when the whole COVID pandemic first started and how it affected me mentally and physically. I'm gonna leave a link in the description below if you want to take a look at the comic. It is absolutely beautiful. The pictures are amazing and it depicted everything that I was feeling to a T. And I know most nurses probably felt the same way and definitely can relate. So feel free to share that. We'll talk to you later, guys.